Welcome to The Crunch with Crib. I'm Jess, and each episode I'll be talking with some of WA's best real estate agents and business people to find out what makes them tick and what lessons they've learned on their journey to success. Damian Martin is one of the best basketballers in Australia. He played with the Boomers at the Rio 2016 Olympics. He's a 4-time NBL Champion and 6-time best defensive player in the NBL. And he's done all of that while overcoming multiple injuries. This year, he's embarking on a brand new challenge, starting a career in real estate with First National Genesis. And so we wanted to chat to him about how he's approaching this next stage in his career while continuing to play top-level basketball. Damian, welcome to The Crunch.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for coming in. I know you've been extremely busy with new baby and...
Yeah, welcome Bonnie to the world. So I've got 2 crazy daughters at home, one 2.5-year-old Maggie and then, Bonnie, who's in the early stages.
So exciting. And obviously kicking off a new career while still managing your current career. So very, very busy. To start off with, I guess for people who might not be familiar with you, can you just give us a little bit of background of what you've kind of been doing for the last 10 years?
Yeah, so it's all basketball essentially. So started my career with the West Sydney Razorbacks, who no longer exist. So we had a phone call from our then owner right before Christmas one year saying, I'm sick of losing money. I'm not paying you guys anymore and I'm handing the license back to the league.
Oh, wow.
And so we ended up playing the remainder 2.5 months of the season without getting paid. The players and coaches shared the gate takings, so the tickets from the sales of tickets. And it wasn't much. It's not like here in Perth where we get 13,000 people to a game. We were getting 500 people to a game. So you'd literally wave at mum and dad and say, thanks for coming down. We're going to divide your $25 ticket by about 16. So
thanks for paying for my
exactly right.
Dinner.
But it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So that's... it's funny how you look back at it. At the time, was losing money, running up credit card bills, could barely pay my rent. But the best thing that came out of it meant I was unemployed. Yeah. Our head coach was unemployed and he got offered the job out here in Perth and then said yes to that and brought myself and a few of the other guys along. And from a professional standpoint, it's the best move I've ever made. And I ended up meeting my wife and now 2 children with her. So from a personal standpoint, I'm really glad I've moved to Perth and it's now definitely home.
Incredible. So your wife's from Perth?
She was living in Perth when we met, but she's originally a Queenslander.
Yeah.
So she's from Townsville, but through her dad's work in the mines, they lived, in Malaysia for a number of years. He lived in China. They ended up in Perth. And then when her dad moved to China, she said, no, I'm going to stay here, live with my eldest brother, finish high school. And a few years later, I moved out here and she's best friends with my teammate, Greg Hire, his wife. So they kind of set us up, to be honest.
Yeah, right. So definitely put in roots and not leaving town anytime soon.
Perth is home. So funnily enough, her parents end up moving over here. And as a 34-year-old, there's nothing like saying I live with my in-laws. So we because of all the work he does still in Queensland with the mines, we wanted to be able to help out with, her mum when he's away. So we found a place that had a granny flat and it's great, especially with 2 young ones. We've got a full-time nanny. Yeah. And when I'm on the road, I feel much better knowing that Britt has company with her mum there. And her dad has 2 nicknames, Mad Dog and Mental.
Oh, wow.
We're pretty much the complete opposites from his bare knuckle fighting days and his rugby league days up in Townsville.
Goodness.
But I love it when Steve's in town. But it's like a bad comedy movie. The first time we ever spoke was actually via an email. He was living in Arkansas at the time and he sent me a photo of him with his assault rifle saying, I hope you're treating Brittany well. So fast forward, 6 years and I'm still part of the family and we're all good.
You've made it. You've made it. And you really, I guess, moving into real estate, you are really following that trend of multi-generational living. That's all the rage now.
Yeah, exactly right. It's happening. It is funny because I've only recently gone through the whole buying process. It's funny being able to see both sides of it. The stress that's related to waiting to hear if the bank has approved it. And for us in particular, it was such a niche setup that we were very specific with the type of house we wanted so that, it was big enough to have all of us, but still have enough room where we didn't feel like we're on top of each other. So to find a place that ticked all the boxes and now have 2 of my 2 daughters being raised by, an incredible mother and then getting the help of her grandparents is it's a lot of fun.
So obviously the reason that you're in here talking to us, a real estate podcast rather than a basketball podcast, is because you are making the transition into real estate sales. So I guess when did you start looking at a career in property? Was it the buying process? Is that what made you interested, or?
I've always had an interest in it, even going back to, I attended university in Los Angeles, and I remember the family that had myself and Maddie Knight, another Australian that was playing basketball over there at the time, had us for Christmas because we're a long way from home. Her dad owned an agency in Southern California, a very successful agency, and we'd spoken back and forth about my interest in real estate, and he bought me this book, for Christmas, and I read it, and that just kind of lit the fuse to become more involved in real estate. But because I always had basketball, I was always in the distance. But the reality is I'm 34, I'm the eldest on the team, and I can't play basketball forever. So the last thing I wanted to do was retire from basketball, and then, the following Monday, that'd be my first day in a new workforce.
Yeah.
Essentially, I wanted to do something I'm passionate about, which is real estate, and learn as much as I can while I'm still playing, so that when I go full time with real estate, hopefully I've got a good understanding of it, some education, and a bit of, history of buying, selling, understanding settlement, everything that goes into it that people probably don't understand until you dive into it. And joining, Jonathan Clover at First National, he's been fantastic with training. I feel sorry for him because the amount of extra work I've put on him, I'm receiving emails at 2:45 in the morning where he's doing all the work, but he's been amazing, just being able to pick his brain, sit in the office and see what he does on a day-to-day basis, or then go and follow him and be a fly on the wall at one of the appraisals or one of the home openings, whatever it may be.
Yeah. So one of the questions I wanted to ask was how you decided to choose, I guess when rookies are looking at real estate agencies, it's a big decision to decide where to go. How did you decide to go with Jonathan and First National?
I was very fortunate that the Wildcats have always been good that any educational study you do outside of basketball, they reimburse provided you pass it. And so Jesse Wagstaff, for example, a teammate of mine, I'd love to see the figure that the Wildcats have reimbursed him, because he's done a second engineering degree. He's got his MBA. His dream job, even though he's got 2 engineering degrees and an MBA, is to assemble IKEA gear. Like he just loves building stuff. Exactly right. Studying and building things. That's his dream job. But when I decided to do some studying in real estate, I put up a photo online, and when I showed that I'd passed, I was lucky enough that I had a few licensees and different agents reach out and offer, some help. And then I got together with about 6 or 7 different real estate agents, and I was lucky enough that a few of them offered me jobs. And I was very close, it was hard deciding who to go with, but I had to write down what was most important at the time. And, even though there was places that may have offered, more commission or more money up front, the reality is, if I don't learn the business, then the day I retire and I'm out on my own, I'm going to have I might have some listings, but I won't know how to sell, or I might not even be able to get my foot through the door for an appraisal, let alone know what to say once I'm in there. So the educational side of it was very important to me. And, I had some great guys that I'm sure would have been good mentors, but decided in the end to go with Jonathan. Yeah.
It's very exciting. So at the moment, obviously, as we mentioned, you're juggling, you've got family, you've got your basketball commitments, and those 3 AM emails about appraisals and whatever. How are you juggling everything now?
I love it, because originally when I was only playing basketball, win, lose or draw, that's all I could think about, whether I was on the court or off the court. And after a loss, I'd be up at night replaying every single play that happened throughout the 40 minutes I was on court. And then I had a baby, and Maggie kind of brought a bit better life balance. Brittany and Maggie brought better life balance. So when I walked through the door, I couldn't think about basketball, because all of a sudden I had a daughter running up to me, and I might have to change nappies or be focused and in the moment with her. Yeah. And I find that, between basketball, when I'm at basketball, that's all I'm thinking about. And I think I can be my best version of a basketball player. When I'm at home, because I'm busy, I can just lock into being a husband and a father. So hopefully that makes me a better husband and father. Yeah. And then when I'm doing my real estate, it means, I can't become a better basketballer while I'm out at an appraisal. So enjoy being there, or while I'm reading about the current market or about, settlements, whatever it may be, I'm trying to learn that day, or out on the road learning. Be present, learn as much as I can, and enjoy it because I'm there. Yeah. So, between those 3, I'm finding I'm really enjoying each one of them even more, because I've been focused on something else prior to it.
Yeah. How do you think you'll go when the time comes that you've just got real estate? Do you think you'll still be looking for little bits and pieces to keep you, your finger in the toe in basketball? Or
I love the game, so I'll always be a part of it in some way.
Yeah.
Whether it's coaching, my daughter's basketball team, or one-on-one sessions with whoever might be up and coming players. or just watching it as a spectator for the first time in a number of years instead of a player. So I love the game. It's a part of who I am. But in saying that, a lot of the things I've learned from basketball, whether it's the disciplines, the processes, the training, I've already learned in these early days that you can apply them to real estate. So, being a part of my first sale, it's funny, a lot of people speak about when you retire, you can't get that rush that only playing sport offers, with 13,000 people cheering after a win, that sheer elation. But I love, being the bearer of good news. Randomly, I'm a marriage celebrant.
Yeah.
And
wow.
a teammate, it's a teammate asked me to do it. And I said yes, but I enjoy it because that's what you are. You're the bearer of good news during a joyous occasion. Now, there's a lot more that goes into buying and selling than just that final day where you get to say, congratulations, you've sold, or congratulations, you've bought. But, it's from speaking firsthand experience, it motivates me to be able to enjoy that more and more. And in order to do that, it means I've got to be a successful agent.
Yeah.
One, to get the listing, then be able to sell it and at a price that the seller's really happy with.
So you've already nailed your first couple of listings and your first sale.
Yeah.
Incredible. What was the bigger high of the two? Getting the appraisal or getting the sale?
It was a combination. Getting the listing actually happened almost by accident. So when I decided this is what I want to do outside of basketball, I reached out to some friends and family members who have bought and sold in the past. And I wanted to understand everything from, the good, the bad, and the ugly of their experiences. And so one of my former teammates, I emailed him and I said, I know you've been renting in Perth for the last 10 years because he was living on the East Coast by then. Just if you could let me know the good and the bad you've experienced over the 10 years so I can understand the renting side of it as well. Mm-hmm. And he said, funnily enough, I've actually had it on the market for 6 months. It hasn't sold. I'm getting frustrated. If it doesn't sell in the next week, why don't you put together a proposal? Let me know about your marketing plan, how you'd actually be able to sell it when this current agent hasn't. And a week later, Jonathan and I on speakerphone were speaking to this seller. And it was funny. You realise how much more there is to it than just saying, how much do you want? Are we going to put it from this amount or this range? That's the furthest thing from it. Going through the openings and seeing that, Jonathan's almost a builder. He understands the renovating side of it, what you can and can't do, the history of the suburb, the schools, the shops. There's so much to it in every single individual case. So that when I got told, he said, yep, you've got it, I was over the moon. But then I was like, okay, now I've got to learn everything about this, 1907 character home in Mount Lawley, a suburb I've never lived in. So it was really exciting having different goals that were away from putting a ball through a hoop. I loved that. But then finally having the home opening, I was like a kid on Christmas morning and I was supposed to start at about 10 a.m. and at 10:05 no one was there. I was like, what's going on? But then, we had about 8 couples come through and I was just, the excitement was through the roof. And a few liked it. We did our follow-up and before you know it, we've got a couple of offers pen to paper and I absolutely loved it. So in that, I think it was 10 days from getting the listing to selling it or having it under offer, and I remember putting that under offer sticker on the signboard out the front, and it was as satisfying as anything.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really going through the process. Like you're really, I don't think a lot of rookies would email their friends to ask what their good and bad experiences have been, or what are you doing in terms of your education, and is it mainly just following Jonathan? What other stuff are you kind of putting in place? Yeah,
so we've teamed up, so he is a huge part of it. But the reality is he has his goals, I have my goals, and to be able to achieve it, I've got to learn every part of the industry or as much as I can. And so, I've been lucky enough to have people that work in the settlement side of it reach out and say, hey, if you ever want to talk about the legalities or this part of selling and buying, let's do a coffee. So I've probably drank more coffee in my life over the last few weeks than ever before. So whether it's with a settlement agency, whether it's talking to people that work in, the banking side of it, how to get loans so that, I'm never going to give legal advice. That's not my job to a potential buyer or seller. But it'd be nice to know that, I've been through this before. I understand the stress is related. Here are some options. Yeah. And then in particular, if someone comes in, they're a family, they want to know about the schools, I'm not just giving them the Wikipedia answer. I've taken the time to learn about the local school so I can say with confidence, here's what to expect if you buy here and send your children there.
Yeah. Is it a daunting task? You've obviously got a illustrious basketball career, doing it for a very long time. Was it daunting coming into a brand new, a rookie, or were you just excited?
No, I was a nervous wreck. So I studied through REWA, and I better learning face-to-face. I thought, no, instead of doing it all online, I'm going to do the week-long course. And I walked into the room, and there was probably 25 other people in there. And normally I don't mind speaking in front of other people. You know, for the last 10 years, I've stood up in front of video sessions, and good or bad, I've spoken to my teammates after wins and losses, and never thought twice about it. All of a sudden I found myself in this room, and they're like, guys, just so you know, within the week you will be up front here doing some role playing about an appraisal or whatever it may be. I'm like,
sales role playing.
don't pick me. But no, it was, I was completely out of my comfort zone. But that was also part of the thrill of it, was knowing I'm going to enjoy it. I like being around people, love being, like I said, the bearer of good news, but just something that's so distant from what I've been used to in the last 10 years. It motivates me to be as good as I can at that as what I've done, with basketball.
Yeah. You've obviously had a few challenges in your career, injury challenges and, the things that come with being a professional athlete. What do you think the biggest things that you've learned in your basketball career that you're taking across?
Yeah, so it is funny, injury is part and parcel of sport.
I think you've battled a few more.
Someone once had me write down all my injuries, and they gave me like the picture of the body that you get at the doctors, and just say put an X on every part of your body. So starting from my little toe with little toe surgery to sprained ankles, torn calves, right ACL surgery, left MCL tear, quad tears, 4 broken jaws, ruptured left Achilles tendon, torn right Achilles tendon, 4 broken wrists, broken arm, 3 shoulder surgeries. So yeah, for a non-contact sport, I've had my fair share. But even though that is adversity and setbacks, there's the biggest I've ever had to face is losing championships or getting cut from the 2012 London Olympics team. So the physical stuff you can get over, because even if you've got an arm injury, you can still work on your lower body and vice versa. Whereas it's the mental challenges that it took me a lot longer to learn from and recover from. And whereas now at this age, this part of my career, I realise those mental setbacks have made me a better person because it helps me put things in perspective. When I was younger, I'd lose a game, and, I compare it to having your hand right in front of your face. When you put your hand right in front of your face, that's all you can see. That all of a sudden becomes your whole world. You push it back to an arm's length, and you're like, oh, it's only a small part of who I am or everything that's in my life. And that's what I compare, whether it's the basketball, whether it's, different parts of my life. It's one part of who I am. And so a minor setback, okay, let's fix that and make sure it doesn't impact the rest of my life. And I see that with real estate. I love it, but there's going to be setbacks. Like I know I spoke about that first listing and first selling. I know getting it done in a week is not common, and I'm going to have times where there's going to be frustrations and conversations with owners or buyers that aren't going to be comfortable, but hopefully similar conversations but in different topics with players and teammates and coaches over the years after losses or during hard times or when I'm going through my own troubles, have prepared me to be able to handle that. It's just a matter of now being educated enough to be able to go in there comfortable. I got told, go into meetings with your head, your hand and your heart filled. So your hand might be the documentation, the information, your head, your knowledge, and your heart, you're doing it for the right reason. And I've always done that with team meetings in basketball, and hopefully that'll carry over to whoever I'm meeting in the real estate world. Yeah,
it's a great attitude to have. It's all 100% true. So I also wanted to ask, and you seem like you're a fairly structured and organised person, but I know a lot of athletes that struggle going, it's being a professional athlete is such a managed life for a lot of people. Every day is structured out and you have to be here at this time and someone else is doing it all for you, and you're going into a career that's you need to be self-sufficient, you need to be a self-starter, you need to be self-managed. How do you think you're going to go with that change?
I lose everything. So my teammates always make fun of me for getting different things or losing different things. So it's about being switched on and making sure I'm aware of that. But self-motivation, I've got my own goals. And, probably what's driven me in basketball is fear of failure. The last thing I ever want to do is let down a teammate, my wife, my family, my parents. And I'm, going to carry that over to real estate. I don't want to fail in that. And the reality is I have a mortgage to pay. I want to be able to provide a lifestyle for my daughters, for my wife. So it's just, putting myself in an environment where I can learn the right ways or the right process to be successful, which I believe I have at First National, but then also having that individual motivation of then going out and implementing it. It's one thing to know something, it's another thing to carry it out. And that, as you said, that motivation is a huge part of that.
Yeah. Are you looking at getting a coach or anything like that, or at the moment just filling it out, doing the coffees and the working with Jonathan and is there anything else that you're putting in place to, make sure you're doing those calls?
Look, it's funny. I remember doing my first door knock, and it was purely just to let people know in Mount Lawley we've listed a place on your street. So, went through knocking on the door. Some people answered, some didn't. But I remember 3 of the first 5, they're in an apartment complex. 2 of them didn't have their shirt on, and then the 3rd person was only in their undies. I'm like, what is going on here? Is this what door knocking entails? But
Did any of them recognise you?
Yeah, I had a couple that recognised it, and one invited me in to show me the place, and it was, a beautiful place in North Perth. And I was like, oh, this is really nice, because I do love the people side of it. But yeah, you're going to have some times where you laugh about different things. And considering that was my first ever experience, I'm like, who does this? But I was a nervous wreck. Not often do you go and knock on a stranger's doors.
No.
But the reality is, I'm not trying to sell anything to them. I'm just trying to let them know that somewhere on their street there's a house for sale, because people like to know what's going on in their area. And funnily enough, that's how I got my first sale. One of the neighbours came down. They weren't looking to buy anything. Came down, enjoyed the free food and drinks, had a look around and thought one of my friends would like this place, called her up, and she is the one that ended up buying
really?
it. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's funny how it all works. But yeah, there's things that are going to still make me nervous.
Yeah.
But the hard work isn't one of them.
Do you think your familiar faces open any doors for you that otherwise wouldn't have been... are you getting a little bit of recognition and help in that regard?
It is nice, and to be honest, when I first started, we were on a bit of a losing streak.
Yeah, okay.
And so
You've turned it around now.
I was a bit nervous about how people might slam the door on me or tell me to focus more on basketball. But I do genuinely believe that this has made me a better player, because when I'm on the court, it's all I want to do. When I'm there, when I'm at real estate, it's all I want to do, or with the family. But there are times where people recognise you, but so far it's been really good experiences. And, hopefully if it does help me get a foot through the door, like I said, it's one thing to be invited to give an appraisal. Yeah. At the end of the day, you're probably selling that person's biggest asset, and they're going to give it to the person they think will do the best job. So, having a bit of a profile in Perth via basketball is one thing, but then being able to go through the door and say, no, go with us because of this, this and this is another. And that's where I've been very fortunate to have a teammate. Yeah.
Do you have any idea about the kind of agent that you want to be?
Yeah, I remember my first day during the REWA course, our instructor, who was brilliant, he got up and said, just so you know, you'll all be, I think real estate agents or sales reps are considered bottom 3 for most trusted people in any career. And I hated that. I hated the idea of people not trusting me. But then as the week went on and the more I listened to him and different experiences that they'd been through, the different agents that came through, I thought, why can't I keep my morals and values and just use it for a different industry? Now, that might mean that at times I'm not going to get listings, or, I'm going to butt heads with different buyers or sellers, but I don't want to change those underlying core values I have just to fit a mold. And the reality is, I believe from my experience, very, very short experience, the people I was meeting up with for coffees when I was deciding which way to go, they were really good people. Yeah. And so I think it's just a few bad eggs out there that may have lied or deceived someone, have given a bad name, but so far it's been pretty positive, and I hope that can continue and I can continue in that manner.
Beautiful. So North Perth area you're selling?
Yeah, so our office is based in Mount Hawthorn, but we've had properties around the area. It's crazy, we've been out to Maida Vale, up to my area. I live in Edgewater, and everywhere in between. Got some beautiful places in Wembley. So Wembley, Mount Lawley, Mount Hawthorn, they're probably that little triangle we'll focus on. Yeah. But like I said, that's something I've really enjoyed, is it can take you anywhere. Someone comes through a home opening, they like the way you've presented it, the way you've spoken, the amount of work you've put in on behalf of that seller, and they want that in the selling of their own property. And then you ask where they're from, and they're like, 30 minutes away, fantastic, I'll jump in a car. But it excites me. So whether I'm jumping in a car and driving 45 minutes away for an appraisal or staying within that triangle, both excite me. Yeah, beautiful.
You mentioned before what motivates you, and I think you said it was fear of failure. Mm-hmm. Is that your primary motivator, both I guess in basketball and moving into real estate?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I've got goals, and so you could say to achieve that goal, that's my motivating factor. But underlying every single one of those is the thing that keeps me up most at night after a poor performance is having let someone down. Yeah. And so it's easy in basketball because you can say you let your teammates, your coaches, the fans down, the supporters in the crowd. Real estate's slightly different because it might be a smaller amount of people you've let down, but you've still let someone down in something that you probably could have controlled. So some things are out of my control on a basketball court or in real estate. Other things you can control. And if the ones I'm doing where I'm in charge of it, I do my best and it's still not good enough, I'll still sleep that night. But it's the ones where I'm laying at night thinking I could have done that better that drives me insane.
Yeah. And so finally, can you share with us some of your goals this year in real estate? What are you kind of hoping to do in your first year?
Yeah, education is first priority. But in saying that, I'm pretty competitive and Jonathan certainly is. So, the agency itself is still quite new. It's only been in Mount Hawthorn for about, 12 to 16 months. And Jonathan's gone from, kind of being a teacher there and a trainer there to now he's back in sales. So we're competitive. We push each other. And even though it keeps him up to 2 a.m. while I'm sleeping, preparing for a basketball game, we have a figure in mind that we'd love to be able to sell. Right now we've got double figures in listings and we'd like to be able to continue that. But the way because of our stage marketing plan, there's probably only a certain amount of listings we can have because we go and do all the door-to-door knocking for every single buyer or every single seller, sorry. So there's only so many hours in the day. Yeah. And right now we're probably at our max for this month. And but I love it. I love the pushing each other and having, working in a team because that's all I'm used to. I think that's worked really well so far, partnering up with someone, not just for the educational side of it, but then, I don't want to let him down. He doesn't want to let me down. Yeah. And hopefully we can achieve our goals and
bounce ideas, bounce strategy.
Exactly right. But no, there's certainly figures we've written down of how many houses we want to sell, which markets in particular or areas we want to target. And so far it's early days, but hopefully we can start ticking a few boxes.
Very exciting. Super exciting. I'm super happy for you. Congrats again on your first sale.
Thank you.
It's great to have you in the industry. And thanks so much for your time.
No, my pleasure. I'm not going to lie, I've spoken a lot about basketball over the last 10 years in different radio interviews or podcasts. When you asked me in here, I'm like, oh man, even this challenged me. I better do some more reading in case I get asked this question or that question.
There was nothing too tough, I hope.
No, it's been
Everyone
good.
always tells me that they're nervous and then they come in and they're like, no, it was all right. It was all right. So, look, again, congratulations. Hopefully, hope to see you have another couple of Ripper games this weekend after last weekend. And hope to see you selling some more houses.
No, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Damian. That's it for this episode. We'd love any feedback or guest suggestions, so hit me up on Instagram on Jess@Crib. And if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to tell a friend.